Always be teachable. That's how you win in real life. And that is by Anonymous. Hello, queens. And I know we have some kings as well. So hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Toy Talks podcast. My name is Toy Washington and I am the founder and creator of the Toy Talks podcast and platform. And bi-weekly we try and bring a brand new episode. Sometimes it doesn't hit bi-weekly. Sometimes my ability to be able to record isn't there. But, you know, when I have something to say, I come and record. And we have a catalogue of episodes that teaches, guides and educates Black women how to navigate the world of work safely, and in turn highlights the path of our success, and the accompanying masterclass is available on the toytalks.com website. So this podcast episode, I think I am naming it Gel. And you're probably thinking, gel with a J, what the hell is that? Well, gel is short for jealous. And in previous episodes, I've often spoken about kind of energies and friendships and all of that. However, recently I've been getting quite a few DMs about, you know, people being in situations where they're progressing and the jealousy that emanates from the people around them. And actually it's something that they hadn't seen before until they started progressing and how to deal with that. And the conversation about jealousy and where that comes from in regards to one's career progressions and just being able to elevate yourself from a position that you were once in that everybody was comfortable with you being in, and actually how to deal with it and actually deep dive and talk about it. So I said that I would do a podcast episode dealing with stuff like that and also drawing from my own experiences and the experiences of others. So hopefully this episode is hitting and landing and the messaging comes through. But before we get into all of that, I do want to talk I really found it very difficult to talk about and to watch. Trigger warning, the young girl who's 14 years old, black girl, 14-year-old young black girl who was brutally and racially assaulted and attacked outside her school gates by grown-ups, by a 39-year-old, I believe one of them was 38 years old, and they were goading and egging and encouraging a 14, a 16 and another young lady to brutally and racially attack, assault and beat up a black girl, and no one defended her, no one stuck up for her, no one intervened. And watching these grown adults attack this black girl, 14 years old, in Ashford in Surrey, and somebody having recorded that, when I first watched it, I was numb. I had no reaction. And I know that I had no reaction because it triggered me. And it triggered me for various reasons, and we can get into that a little bit later on. But actually, watching this black girl be brutally attacked in this way, all of us could relate because we could all see ourselves in that young black girl. And the fact that nobody intervened, and this fight was going on for a good few minutes. Her hair was pulled, her extensions were dragged out. She was punched, she was beaten. And she stood her ground though, be under no illusion that she was fighting for her life. And I think the realisation that she was fighting for her life is what made me feel physically sick, because she didn't know how this was going to end. She just knew that she had to fight because there was no let up and no one was coming to her aid. There were grown-up adults standing there, yes, encouraging it, but there were some people that were just standing there watching it, and that includes the person who recorded it. However, we are grateful that it was recorded so that nobody can dispute what was seen. And the question of why or how it led up to that is irrelevant, absolutely irrelevant. And anybody who leads with that questioning is complicit in the abuse of young black girls. And actually what the video actually highlighted is the systematic and continuation of abuse of black girls. And the fact that this young girl is 14, she's going to live with that scarring, the physical scarring, the mental scarring for the rest of her life. She's going to remember this. This is part of now her trauma that she has to work through and walk through. And I think that's the saddest part, because at 14 years old, you're a child, you're a baby, you're young, you're there's so many other things that 14-year-olds are thinking about. not the fact that they could have been. She could have lost her life, because if they had just hit her the wrong way and she had hit her head on the floor, on a pole, whatever the case, she could have been concussed, and she could have had a blood clot. She could have died. And the fact that she was so close to that, and the fact that she knew she had to instinctively fight for her life, and watching that go on for minutes, that to me was just so hard to watch. And I think what compounded it and made it worse is 2 male teachers approached, and one of them we now know to be the head teacher. And he just kind of stands around, kind of not sure what his role is, and allows this to happen in front of him. He has his jacket on, he's got a scarf on, looking like one point Dexter, stupid. And then he's got another teacher looking like a boiled potato, standing there. And they don't try to intervene to stop this. And I'm thinking to myself as I watch this, how is this going to end? And we don't actually see how it ends. We don't. I can only assume that somebody stopped it. And I refuse to watch that video again. Not happening. So then obviously what's transpired now is the footage was released on social media, and the power that is social media has meant that there has been an uproar in our community. There's been protests outside of the school. Apparently 5 people have been arrested. 1 person is still on the loose, and the police have requested that that person turn themselves in. And I just think to myself, how many more incidents like that have happened that just haven't been captured? But this was. You can't dispute it, you can't argue it, you can't pretend it doesn't exist. And the fact that the community have come together to hold every party accountable for what's happened, the fact that we're using our voices on social media to bring awareness to the situation, has meant that the police have got involved. There is an investigation, and there are calls for the head teacher and the teacher that was there doing nothing to resign. How this ends, I don't know. But I love the fact that there's a particular black organisation that have reached out to the family. I know that Dave, the musician, and a few other people have donated to the girl's family, given money, and done that privately. And hopefully, you know, part of that money can be used for therapy, just to really support her. They're offering self-defense classes and things like that. But it's polarised this conversation that we need to have about young black girls not being seen in their fragility as being young, but instead being seen as adults, and therefore being treated in that way, and not afforded the empathy that white or non-black kids are afforded because of their ages. And it speaks also to the fact that even as black women in our adult life, we're not treated with the same fragility as our non-black counterparts. We're seen as having a proximity to the male masculinity, or the black male masculinity. And this makes sometimes our ability to assert ourselves quite dangerous, because we're not treated as women, we're treated as men. And it polarizes that whole conversation. But taking it back to this young girl, I really hope that her family uses the full weight of the law to not only press charges, because obviously they're building up a case, the police are building up a case to present to the CPS, but I hope it's a lesson to other communities that the black community, we may have been slow to pick up the pace, but the pace has been picked up. We will use social media, we will draw attention, we will name, we will shame, and we will press charges. How about that? I mentioned being quite triggered, and I was quite triggered because when I was a young girl, I was bullied and I was actually attacked. And it's something that I don't really talk about because, I don't know, it just, when I think about what happened, I was 15 years old in the school playground, and I was hospitalised, and all the things that happened, it's made me into the person I am today. And that is the reason why you can't bully me. I don't care who you are, I don't care what position you're in, I don't care how old you are, you cannot bully me. It can never happen. That person at 15 years old that was bullied, That person died. That spirit died. And what was reborn was me. And I didn't get the therapy that I should have had because my parents didn't believe in therapy. I wasn't afforded the opportunity to kind of deal with that situation. It was a few months before my GCSEs, and that was the focus. And as I have, become an adult and matured into an adult, I've been able to deal with what had happened at that time. But believe me when I tell you that when I watched that video, I definitely felt like I was watching myself, and it triggered me. And I'm so grateful to God that now as an adult, I've kind of dealt with some of those issues that arose from that situation. But it's something that I don't go into detail about, and I know that even though I'm speaking about it quite high level, I'm still not going into detail about it. But what I will say is, what happened to me has made me into the woman I am today. But be under no illusion that I'm not the way I am by mistake. It's through situations that have made me this way. Would I change those situations? Well, yeah, if I could go back in time, I would, because I feel like the toxicity of not being able to deal with emotions and not being able to deal with that situation has meant that I've been stunted emotionally in how I deal with things. So for example, I've often been quite surface level with my emotions. It takes me a long time to get to a point of actually tapping into my deep emotions and being able to express myself. And it's something that I worked on in therapy and continue to work on, and something I think I'm getting better at, if that makes sense. But let's just extend our prayers to that 14-year-old girl who was racially assaulted, abused and bullied. And not only do I hope that she gets the help that she deserves, but I hope that the karma that visits each and every one of those people who were complicit or involved in that situation, may the karma find them and deal with them. So the last time we congregated, I shared with you that my contract was due to terminate end of January for one of my contracts. And in fact, as the ancestors will so have it, that didn't actually happen. And I was actually very surprised because, I was ready for the contract to come to a natural end. I'd already had 2 or 3 extensions. I was cool. Now, I've often said and had to correct myself, I don't love my job. I'm not in love with my job. I'm just really good at my job, and there is a difference there. I think I fell out of love with what I do because I realised that there's so much more to me than being a commercial contracts manager or being a commercial contracts consultant. There's a lot more. But being able to be good at it and make it and specialise and become a subject matter expert, I feel has given me the ability to negotiate terms, day rate, to dictate where I work and dictate kind of the environment that I choose to go into to an extent. And being a contractor has given me the ability to be a lot more in control of my career, being able to climb the career ladder at a faster pace than I did when I was a perm. So it's a win-win. But one thing I would always say is, and this is the difference between, and it's only a slight difference between a perm and a contractor, is when you're a perm, it's that whole thing about, kind of working hard and hoping that you'll pass your probation. And then obviously, we've got the probation masterclass that supports you through that probation period. But as a contractor, your success is often also measured on if they offer you an extension. So for me, being able to have been offered 2 or 3 extensions was enough of a clarification for me that not only was I doing a good job, I was delivering. But it was really obvious to me that they needed me to stay, because I have the supplier that I deal with, who's a massive supplier for the organisation. I have them in a chokehold. And I have them in a chokehold because I know how to manage them. And my boss is very far removed from what I do. But what I couldn't understand is why she wasn't asking me to extend it, affording me the ability to say yes or no. It almost felt like she was waiting for me to beg her. Now, something I want to say is this. Whether you want to accept it or not, a lot of these people don't like us. They don't want to see us there. But because we're best in class at what we do, because we have to be over and above academically, and experience-wise, in comparison to our counterparts. It means that we do come out the best in class at what we do. So everybody wants the best. So they will come to you and they will want to hire you. But then when they hire you, it's like they don't want to see you. And it's often very confusing. But the way I worked it is this. But they may not want to see me there. They may want to hire me to control me. And they may not appreciate what I bring to the table. But the reality is, as long as you are convinced of your own source, and as long as you know you're good at what you do, you have to stop operating from a space of needing to prove yourself to these people, because you're never going to be good enough for them. And they're never going to, you're never going to hear what you want to hear from them or what you think you deserve to hear from them. So you have to be the person that is not only your loudest cheerleader, but you have to operate from a space of confidence. You've got to operate from a space of really understanding your value and what you bring to the table. So I'm in my last quote unquote team meeting. And in this team meeting, no one's mentioning that, the next day's my last day. And that's cool. I don't need a goodbye committee because I didn't get a welcome committee. So I'm cool with that. But look at how the ancestors work and operate to humble this white woman that refuses to at least ask me to extend. As we're having this meeting, an email comes into her mailbox and her face drops. Her face drops. And she says, "Oh my God, Toya, such and such supplier, something's happened and this is major. And it's now been escalated to my boss's boss." And out of the blue, one of my team members says, "Oh my God, how can Toya be leaving tomorrow and this has happened? I'm almost hoping that you're going to convince her to stay." You see, listen, you see when the universe has these people in a chokehold, their mouth starts blubbering. The way this one just opens his mouth, I was looking, I was shocked. Do you know why I was shocked? Because I wasn't expecting it. As far as I was concerned, this is my last day. These people hadn't acknowledged it was my last day. I didn't give a shit. I did a one-page handover that, may I add, I don't have to contractually do. But as a goodwill gesture, I was willing to do it because at the end of the day, you're still approving my invoices, you're still approving the timesheet, the thing's still paid on time. So me too, I can be cordial. You understand? And this is my boss's response. Bear in mind, I've said nothing. I'm just sitting on the call watching all these people, actresses and actors. Well, Toya, there's money in the budget. I said, "Sorry, would you mind repeating that?" She said, "There's money in the budget." I might have to change this title of this podcast. Yeah, I'm going to change the title, honey. I said to her, "Well, if there's money in the budget, I definitely feel like we should have a conversation offline and agree new terms and conditions." She's just looking at me. She thought I was going to be like, "Oh, yeah, I'll stay." Oh, honey, no. Because I now understand where my leverage sits. You now have a situation that you can't deal with. Nobody in the team has a skill set to deal with it. I'm leaving tomorrow. This is what the white man will call a conundrum. And guess who has the solution if you're willing to pay the price as long as I play the tune? Oh, it's me. So my boss continued with the meeting, but you could tell her mind was still on the email that she got. So now I said to my boss, I said, I say my boss, but I say the head of the department. I say to her, "Have you got 10 minutes after this call?" She said, "Oh, yes, definitely. Come and see humility, humbling. You see that humble pie? This one is a nice humble shepherd's pie, honey." And I just want to provide a bit of context here. She's based up north, and I'm not, it's not a stereotype, it's just my experience. And I have to caveat that by saying I don't think all people are like this. But anytime I've dealt with people from the north of England, I often see, I think because they're not used to having a lot of black people up north, like especially where this particular woman is from, and she's often said that, and she's said it before, that it's not. She's used the word. It's not as multicultural as the UK. So what she's really trying to say to me, there's 1 or 2 black people in the village. That's what she's really trying to say, right? I noticed that their attitude, especially when they're managers, it's like they behave a certain way, and it's almost like they feel like they're doing you a favor. That's what I'm trying to say. So I said to her, listen, I just want to have a very frank conversation here, because whilst you said that you have budget and everything, I'm really confused because my last day is tomorrow. She said, Toya, please, we need you to stay. How long can you stay for? I said, well, for me personally, I can give you a couple of weeks, but I cannot be here going into the next financial year, unfortunately. I said, I'm due a career break. I'm due a break. I've gone from one contract to another, one contract to another, one contract to another, and I just need a break now. So what I will say to you, these are my terms. I says to her, I need a pay increase. And I told her what the pay increase was, and she just looked shocked. But I have the leverage here. So I was willing to negotiate, but I thought, let me start from a position where I know that if you're telling me you have budget, that means you've got a cost code. And that means if there's a cost code and there's a budget, then you can go and get this signed off. And I've got the leverage. I can leave tomorrow and it's fine. I've reached my financial a goal for that particular role. My phone is dinging off. I've already rejected a job offer. I'm good. I'm cool. I said also as well, I have a 14-day payment terms and they need to be 7 days. And she was like, okay. I said, please speak to the agency and agree it. And I'm happy to confirm anything you want in writing. She's like, okay, cool. Within 4 hours, this is an initial contract with this company. Do you know how long it took? It took a month. But within 4 hours, they not only extended my contract until the end of February, I got the pay rise. And on top of that, I got the reduced payment terms. Just like that. Do you know the biggest lesson I learned? Where there is budget, there is a tax. Where there is budget, there is a cost code. And where there is cost code, there's a budget. These people know how to release bureaucracy when they're over a barrel. They know what to do. They may act like they don't see what you do. And you're delivering. Those of you who are looking for acknowledgement from these people, the acknowledgement is in the behaviour. It's not in what they say. If you're expecting them to pat you on the back every 5 minutes, that's not how it goes. You have to put yourself in a situation where you know you're delivering. You've got evidence of delivery. And on top of that, if there are things that are preventing you from delivering, you have to also have that information available as a mitigation to why, for example, you've been unable to deliver certain things. These people will never compliment you to tell you you're good at your job, and you need to stop looking for that. You need to stop looking for that acknowledgement. And I have a podcast episode that says your manager is not the key to your success. You are. You have to be. So for me, I always believe in leaving on a high note. And I had not factored in an additional 4 weeks. I hadn't. But when I weighed up the risk factor, I realised a couple of things. I would still have my break. It's just 4 weeks. February is a short month. It's more money that I'm banking. And also as well, I get to rectify this situation and get to show them how it's done. And I've unearthed all this stuff. I've sorted out all this stuff. And I'm sitting here telling you, if I provide my invoice and timesheet at midday, by midday, the timesheet and the invoice are approved. And I'm paid with less than 7 days they pay me. Look at that. And what that should teach you And I talk about this in the negotiation masterclass about the power of leverage. Leverage is power. That's what leverage is. It's your ability to leverage that power to get more favorable terms. And this is why it's so important to negotiate from the beginning. I negotiated my contract from the beginning. And I got the best terms and the best day rate at that time. But things change, honey. We have a cost of living crisis. We have the price of petrol, which seems to be steady these days. Every bill, gas, electricity, everything is increasing. Situations change. And you have to adapt to that change and be able to negotiate favorable terms that will be able to benefit you in the long run. And it's okay to negotiate, then after 6 months or a year, go back to the table. And you have to place yourself in a position where you have at least more leverage. Because when you have leverage, you get to start those negotiations. And part of that leverage is you understanding that they need you and knowing where your leverage sits to get what you want. And understanding where your compromise or your middle point is. And these are all things I teach in a lot more detail in the negotiation masterclass. Everything is up for negotiation. People seem to think negotiation is just about money, and it's not. It's about money, it's about favorable terms, it's about annual leave, it's about study leave, it's about money towards study cost, it's about how many days a week you work. Listen, let me help you to understand. Some industries you can't now introduce 5-day working. That's some bullshit. That is bullshit. Work-life balance is what you have to lead with. If you're not leading with a work-life balance, how are you even starting this employment? You need to truly believe that if somebody wants you, negotiating terms will not have them rescind the offer. If they rescind an offer because you're negotiating, you're not supposed to be there. Because if you're unwilling to negotiate and you're unwilling to meet me halfway, when I get to that organization, this is how it's going to be. Where there is no compromise, I am laboured, I am pressed, I am stressed, and there is no benefit. Do you understand that you have to be able to negotiate something so that you at least have some type of a reasonable journey in an employment? Any organisation that's not willing to negotiate, I'm telling you, when you get there, it's hell on wheels. Hell on wheels. And at the end of the day, I keep saying to everybody, I say it on my TikTok, I say it on the podcast, and I say it in the masterclasses. When there is a vacancy or opening, there is a requirement on both sides. That organisation needs to fill this requirement for XYZ reason. There is a budget and there is a cost code. And you also are looking for an opportunity to make money, expand your knowledge, be able to deliver whatever it is that you're applying for, and also be able to put that on your CV and add to your skills. So you can see two parties have a need and a want. How you leverage yourself starts at an interview. That's where you do your due diligence. Then after that due diligence, if there's an offer made, you then decide how you proceed. Let me tell you, one big boy organization, I'm talking a big boy organization, and bearing in mind I've worked for Goldman Sachs, so I know what that big boy looks like. There was a big boy organization, and I had an interview with them. I think I told you guys I didn't get that particular role, and I don't think the role was right for me, and I think that we both mutually agreed that it wasn't, but it was just so amazing to be headhunted by them. They didn't want anybody else but me. They literally were like, we want to interview her. The interview was really good. Didn't get the role. Cool. But remember, I keep telling you guys, you ladies and queens, I say to you all the time, interview. Because you're learning something, you're understanding what's happening in the industry, you're picking tips and tricks, you're understanding also the type of place you actually want to work for. And I'm going to tell you now, not every job offered to me I accept. I've told you guys, it is not true. I cannot accept every job that's offered to me. No, sometimes the environment is not where I want to work. I then get a call 2 or 3 weeks later from the agency, who this organization, when I say headhunted me through, they found me, the organization, contacted their agency and told them, get this woman. That's how that worked. So then 2-3 weeks later now, I get a call from the same agency. Listen, this particular organization, they want to talk to you again for a different role that they think that you'll be suited for. And I'm sitting there slightly taken aback, and I'll tell you why. Because this organization is very bougie, and it's showing me, by any means necessary, they want me to work for them. As a contractor, the day rate was sexy. The terms, negotiable, but the day rate was sexy. I had an interview. First stage interview, fantastic. The man practically offered me the job there, but said to me, you know, he would encourage me to meet the head of the department. And I said, listen, I'm not going to take this job without meeting the head of the department. He arranged the head of the department. And then in that same meeting was the head of the project, the overall project, the project sponsor. The head of the department, I already got a heads up that she's a couple of screws loose of a complete toolbox. When I got into that second meeting now, the project sponsor, fantastic. Nice guy, straight to the point. He knows what he's doing with his project. He's a proper project sponsor. And he has an appreciation for, commercial contracts, but also created a very good impression about how he works. And you can see it through his interview style. The head of department, who is head of commercial, she didn't even put her camera on. I can't remember what excuse she gave. She doesn't have to put her camera on. But when you're purporting to be the head of a division and you're coming with a certain energy, I think you should put your camera on, because what is it? Stand by what you're saying, innit? But cool. Because my camera's on. We're in an interview setting. Like, I don't see interviews where you don't have camera on. So that already to me was number one red flag. But she said to me, oh, if I think I'm leaving where I am to come to this company for an easy ride, she just wants to point out that there's no easy ride here. And then there was this awkward silence, because between myself and the project sponsor, we couldn't understand where this energy was coming from, because that energy had no space in this interview. In fact, it was less of an interview, more of a conversation, if you really want it. But I could see that this woman's going to be a problem. And she's going to be a problem because effectively in this contract, I'll be reporting to her, because she's the head of the commercial division. So she will be effectively the person that I would escalate to, or the person that I would have to get sign off for certain things, because irrespective of how senior I am, there's somebody that's going to be more senior than me that's going to be accountable commercially for this project. So that was a second red flag. And then she said to me, oh, can I ask you why you choose contracting over perm? And I think that's a very stupid question. It's out every question that could be asked, I find that to be the most stupid, and I'll tell you the reason why. You've come looking for me, or you've come looking for a contractor because you have a short-term need that could possibly be a long-term problem. You rely upon contractors so that you don't have any accountability for having to go down the permanent route, which would require more money and more investment in the long run. You want a solution whereby you're getting a contractor, whether inside scope or outside scope, but you need someone to come and deliver a project based on their experience. So my decision to be a contractor over a perm is irrelevant. It's actually irrelevant. It's irrelevant because you chose to use a contractor. So my decision to be a contractor has no space in this conversation. I ask questions. One of my questions is, please could you name two, and I said maybe two each here, as to some of the difficulties you think that the contractor coming in will have within the first few weeks of this contract. And also, can you give me an example where there has been a difficult situation commercially and how each of you in your roles and your capacities have supported to work through what that issue was commercially. They were shocked. They weren't expecting that. The project sponsor answered it perfectly. The head of the commercial division, her answer, it doesn't make any sense. In one hand, she wants you to be autonomous. In the other hand, she wants control and power. I don't understand. The interview, it went well insofar as, I made my notes. They could see me making notes. And I told them I'd be making notes. They too were making their notes. It was a very, very pleasant conversation. One thing with me, I know how to use my teeth and shine them. Because that's how all your boys people will be doing. They'll be shining. You'll be getting excited. These times you've got bad news waiting for you. So, within 2 days, the day later, agency called me, asked me how the interview went. I said, yeah, it went fine. I says, I have a couple of concerns. However, I'm a contractor. I see things every day. I just... Then 2 days later, I get a call from the agency. Missed the call. This man called me 3-4 times. He then says to me, Toya, I'm going to cut to the chase. I've got an offer for you. And it's more than the day rate that they offered. And the day rate was sexy. So I didn't need to negotiate the day rate. The day rate was sexy, but they're offering more. And they were saying that once a month they want me to go to Exeter. And I told them it ain't going to happen anyway. And they said, yeah, they're happy for you to be fully remote. Payment terms, 14 days. But Toya, I know that you're not really too sure, so I guess I wanted to see where you stand with it. And I said, listen, this organisation is top tier. We both know that. They've come now twice. However, the first time, the role wasn't for me. They didn't feel that it was a good role for me, and I agreed. But I now feel the same about this role. And whilst this is an amazing organisation, ultimately, I don't want to accept this role knowing that, number one, I won't be able to finish the contract. And number two, it just doesn't feel right. And I have to trust my gut. I know I'm going to work for this organisation at some point, but it has to be the right setting and fit for both parties. And also as well, I value our relationship that we've developed here, and I hope you respect my honesty. And he said, you know what, Toya, I really, really do. I really respect your honesty and the fact that you don't mess around and you're straight talking. Now, I wanted to share that because, number one, I don't have two heads. And part of this podcast is also bringing my learning lessons, my experiences, and also highlighting some of my mistakes. And also the power of believing in your own source. The power of believing in your source enough to walk away from something that just is not right. And knowing that you're safeguarding your mental health as well. Because for me, I was looking at this woman. And when I say looking at, I was looking at her initials that appeared on Teams, because clearly she wasn't putting her face there. And I just thought to myself, it's not going to work. Bearing in mind that I already have 2 contracts on the go. One of them is due to end, so I would have just replaced the one that's due to end with this one. I just knew, in the grand scheme of things, where I am at the moment, where I am with my career and everything, this just wasn't the right time. And I'm not going to lie to you, it takes a lot of guts to be able to walk away and hope that something better from that particular place or another place will come up. But you have to believe in your source. That source is the power. That source is your leverage. And whilst they may not like my reaction, there has to be a mutual playing field here where an organisation can also reject you. But you too have the power to reject an offer as well. You do. And yes, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. There's some agencies that will take it as a personal slight, but then that means that agency isn't for me. Because I need to have the autonomy to decide whether something is good for me or not, and not just feel I have to accept it so you can get your commission. That's not how it works. That's not how careers work. That's not how jobs work. Whether you're a permanent employee, whether you're a contractor, as far as I am concerned, having the autonomy to choose and the ability to have choice and options, you need to have that as a form of power to be able to navigate your career. And if you could use that as an example, then all the better for sharing. And I can't wait to take a career break. And it will be in the next financial year. So the next financial year for us is, I believe, the 3rd of April. I'm just going to take some time off, and start, I want to have a 3-year plan for my career. in terms of what I want. Like, you know, is there certain organisations I want to work for? You know, is there any courses that I want to do, and when do I want to do them? I really want to take a step back and like plan, at least attempt to plan the next 3 to 5 years of my career and what that looks like. Now, one thing I definitely know is I want to stay a contractor. That is very clear to me. But now I want to kind of hone in on, I've got so much experience across the board, I haven't been pigeonholed, but where am I going to make the maximum amount of money in a particular industry that I have experience in, and what organisation do I want to work for, and kind of change up my CV a little bit as well, and just take some me time. Because I think as contractors we don't always have because we're always thinking about the next role, and you're always like in the mix. Sometimes we don't even have time to rest. We don't even have time to enjoy the money that we've earned, and we don't have time. And enjoying that money is not necessarily spending it, but actually resting, so that, you know, and actually resting because you've hit certain financial goals. And I think also as well, there are other reasons why I'm taking a career break too. But for me, being able to continue to interview and perfect my interview skills, and use those experiences to come here and discuss it, I hope you see the leverage and the power in that, because it's so important that we start adopting a mentality of having plenty rather than scarcity or scarcity, however you pronounce that word. So I wanted to share that, and hopefully this touches somebody out there. It leads me to kind of how I opened the episode, and just talking about the word gel, and the ladies that have approached me about their various issues, and, you know, having people around them that they felt that led with jealousy, and their inability to feel confident to be open and honest in their friendships or in their relationships because of the risk of triggering somebody's jealousy. And this is what I will say. People are jealous of what they view as the end result, but people are never jealous of the pain, suffering, and the journey that happened before the results of success appear. And I will definitely sit here and tell you that jealousy may not come as obvious as somebody, you know, saying certain things or comments. It can come from changed up negative behaviour. And if you're looking for people within your friendship groups to celebrate you, not everybody has the capacity to do that. Some people don't have the capacity. Because in order to celebrate other people, there has to be a selflessness that you have. You have to genuinely have selflessness to be able to have happiness for somebody else, irrespective of where you are and how you're doing. You see, they say comparison is a thief of joy, but underlying jealousy is the comparison. It's where people will compare you to them and feel that they are less than, and then that's where the jealousy comes from. I'm going to put my hands up and say this. I genuinely feel as though I don't have a jealous inner circle of friends. And that's partly because, number one, we're all in different industries. Number two, everybody's focusing on their own journey. But number three, I genuinely think that when you're going through a journey, some people's jealousy doesn't show itself straight away. And I've gone past a stage in my life where I expect my friends to celebrate me or expect anyone to celebrate me. I just know that I'm able to celebrate others. Luckily for me and blessed for me, I have friends that celebrate me in equal measure that I celebrate them. But there is always one. There is always one that wishes that. And that jealousy doesn't just raise its head in career, in life as well. And I've shared with you guys, you know, what I was told by some of my close friends when I got engaged about how to prepare myself for some people changing up. And it happened, and I shared that here on the podcast. And I definitely think that, for me, I've always told you guys, it is also about energies, but it's also about how I deal with the jealousy that I perceive that is being received. And I understand that sometimes it's not always about cutting people off. Sometimes people are just limited. But then it's about how you allow their limitation to affect you. And if their limitation affects you to the point where you are now downplaying your achievements to accommodate for their insecurities, then that means that you're not allowing yourself to enjoy the fruits of your labour. And it's labour with a capital L. Because I know a lot of our successes has come from labour, sowing seeds and sacrifice. Because when I was cleaning toilets in law school, I didn't see anybody being jealous of me then. There was no gel. And I hate that word. I hate the word, I'm so gel. And it's a way that people pacify and downplay the word jealous. So if they say gel and not jealous, it doesn't seem so bad. It's born from the same fruit. When I was in Dubai a couple of weeks ago, do you know how many messages I got from people? I'm so gel, it's so cold here. Some people were giving me clips of weather warnings. I said, listen, don't do that. I'm not interested. Stop messaging me. My out of office is on. I wrote that. When someone messaged me and said, I'm so gel, I don't even respond. Because I'm not going to acknowledge your insecurity. Because when I couldn't afford money to buy a sanitary towel, nobody was gel. Now I'm having a rest because I have laboured myself. You're coming to tell me how gel you are. That's not my problem. Do what you have to do to unravel yourself from gel. Yeah, from jealous. J-E-L. It stinks. It actually stinks. Instead of people to sort out their pH levels, they're coming to do gel. That's very stupid. And I think as women and as queens, I think something we have to remember is, in as much as people do not have the capacity or the ability to manage their emotions when you are celebrating, you can't expect everybody to be celebrating you, because you're not doing it for them, you're doing it for you. You have to have the ability to celebrate yourself and for it to be enough for you. You can't be walking on your journey looking left and right to see who's clapping for you, because often than not, people won't clap for you. You have to be able to clap and encourage yourself. You don't know what people are going through. You don't know why people are limited, and that they're that jealous and that they're that vocal about their jealousy. You have to also thank your lucky stars that people are vocal about their jealousy, so that you know where their jealousy and limitation sit, so you know how to move accordingly. But I definitely feel as though as we are wisening up to the realities of the world of work, as we are seeing success and an increase of financial status and stability, and an increase in our tax brackets as being more accessible, not everybody can come on that journey with you. And whilst you may want people to come on that journey, some people are just not ready. So you have a decision to make. You continue on the journey with them, accepting their limitations, or you continue the journey without them. And that's really the reality of it. I don't think there's much for me to say on this topic that I haven't said in previous episodes and spoken about in previous episodes. I just think that in life people are limited, and we can't judge people on their limitations. What we can do is operate accordingly and understand what we're allowing into our energy space. I think in this episode, what I've really tried to bring forth is the power that we have within ourselves to be able to call the shots, and understanding as well, like, as black women, the journey continues. However senior, however you grow in your career, the journey continues. And if you think that you're going to enter a certain stage whereby you're on equal playing field to non-black people, I don't think it will happen for a long time. I think we have to focus on being better and working strategically to obtain the success that we know we deserve. I really want to shout out Rihanna. Rihanna performed yesterday at the halftime Super Bowl 2023, and she also shared that she is she gave birth 9 months ago, but she shared that she is now pregnant again. And I saw this comment and it made me laugh. And someone said that she just came back to renew her maternity leave, which I thought was so funny. But what I thought was so powerful about her performance is more about Rihanna as a businesswoman, and I'm not sitting here saying I'm a fan of Rihanna, but I'm more of a fan of Rihanna than I am Beyonce. But what I love about Rihanna is her ability to use her singing career to leverage her entrepreneurial endeavors, and is now a billionaire through not only Fenty Beauty but all the Fenty businesses that she has. And there's things that I read in the press about how people that perform are not paid for the Super Bowl, but it's the product placement for me. Halfway through a performance, she's handed a compact powder and she's patting her face down. That's product placement for Fenty Beauty, and I love that for her. I love the fact that she changed the game of the music industry. Of the beauty industry, whereby you had companies like MAC, you had companies like Lancome, and they didn't have a vast amount of shades that was inclusive, especially for black women. And Rihanna came onto the scene and she changed that game. Like, her product line is the most inclusive makeup brand out there. She is running with the big boys and she's competitive with it. She doesn't have to do music anymore. That's what people are not understanding. Everyone's demanding an album, but Homegirl doesn't have to do it. And I love the energy that she has. I love her attitude. Like, she comes with this attitude like, yes, the music opened the doors, but honey, I open many doors after this music, and I have so many more strings to my bow. And she is an example to me as black women of who we need to be paying attention to, because a lot can be said about social media influencers. Follow me here. You've got people on YouTube doing amazing things, but they are one-trick ponies. Because you shut down YouTube, shut down social media, they don't have shit all going for them. Because they're not thinking ahead. They're not looking into the future and thinking, if this was to stop tomorrow, where do I go from here? If you want to expand your brand, you need to be able to leverage the success you have to open up doors for other opportunities, is what I'm trying to say. So, for example, for me, being able to do the podcast has been amazing. And I will always commit myself as much as possible to continue to deliver the content insofar as there's demand, there's a need, and insofar as there is actual quality substance to speak on. But I haven't just stopped at the podcast. I've got the masterclasses which accompany the podcast. Thinking far ahead, further ahead, you guys know I launch apparels. Stationery I've worked on and I've collabed with. And on top of that, I do public speaking events. And it has given rise to other things. So I may be a contractor and I'm contracting and I'm consulting, but I have businesses that come to me for private work. Some things that I never discuss. Partly because I'm under NDA for certain organisations, and partly because, I just kind of feel like I give enough on here and I give enough hints for everyone to know that in order for me to be, I believe, successful, I have to have multiple revenue streams. And I have to leverage the success of my platform to be able to open the doors for those revenue streams. So whilst you may not see me on TV and you may not see me on certain platforms, and that's how you measure success, I measure success quite differently. I measure success, number one, the amount of zeros in my bank account. I measure success based on how many opportunities that I've been able to leverage and open. I measure success on the amount of women who have tapped into the platform and have managed to use it for their own success. And I measure success based on my ability to continue to deliver in different aspects of my businesses, because I don't just have Toya Talks. I have 2 other businesses. I've got other limited companies that I work through that generate money. And for me, that is important, because I'm not just thinking about myself here. I'm thinking about the future, because things change. And I still know that there's untapped resource that I haven't actually tapped into, and that I'm actually actively working on now. And Rihanna, for me, is the epitome of not only moving in silence, but being the ultimate businesswoman that's able to have used music as a launch pad to other things. So whilst everybody's getting angry with her for not releasing an album, she's making millions and billions through other endeavours and has other multiple revenue streams, which means that she is not bound by music. the history of her music and the fact that she's able to do the Super Bowl and still help us to relive that music that she released, it's not the be all end all for her. And as black women, I think that she's a role model in understanding how business works and how she has used music to open other doors in other areas that has generated her money. And as black women, I keep telling us all the time, I keep telling myself all the time, I keep talking to us here on the podcast, you have to see yourself as a business. Whether you're an employee, whether you're a contractor, you still have to see yourself as a business, and you still have to be able to tap into those skills that are different, unique, and that can make money to make money. Because if you're looking to be rich, you're not going to be rich by being an employee. I'm sorry, that's not going to happen. You're not going to be rich. But what you can do is use that money to invest in what your passions are. What are you passionate about? What do you enjoy? And you don't have to be in love with it. You just have to be really good at it and be able to back your chat or be able to back your ability. And I'm not sitting here saying it's easy, because a lot of what I have done has been a labour of love, and it's a capital L on the labour. But I definitely have seen the power of committing to wanting to have more than what society says I deserve. And I hope that this lands and resonates with some of you. And I don't know who this message is for. I don't know why I'm prompted to say it, but I'm prompted to say it. And I was speaking to Kay earlier about Rihanna, and we were talking about Super Bowl, and I said, Kay, whether her performance, as what the critics are claiming, is mediocre, she didn't have to do it, and she still would have made $1 million today. And that's what people are not understanding. She can have as many kids as she wants. Why is she being judged on having another child 9 months after she had the first child, when men don't get judged in that same way? But women, and especially as black women, we have to work harder. We have different experiences that requires us to labour ourselves to be more than, or to have more, because we're told that we can't, or we are told, or we are made to feel that we're limited. So if anything, Rihanna needs to be an example to all of us of how to use your platform as a launch pad to other things, or how to create a platform and use it for other things. Or your launch pad could be your careers that launches you into something else. You know, I know at least I can count 10 people in my hand, I know for a fact, that have become contractors off the back of just listening to the podcast. I have had contractors and consultants reach out to me and say, Toya, you need to do a masterclass on consulting, freelancing, and it will cover all industries, because just because you're not in my field doesn't mean you can't be a contractor. I've got a friend and she works in creative design. She's now a contractor. I've got another friend who is a nurse. She's a contractor. She works for an agency. All these things that I'm saying to you, I hope you understand. I say, and I keep reiterating this, it's important that this point lands. This podcast is not for people just in the corporate industry. I'm no longer in corporate. I left corporate many, many years ago. It's for people, women, queens in the working world. You just have to be in the working world. And you just have to open your ears and open your mind to receive what I'm saying to you. And you have to commit to the episodes that I've previously recorded to really go on the journey, to be able to strategically navigate the world of work and start opening your doors and start recognizing where your launchpad is, and to start creating different revenue streams for yourself. I can give you the blueprint, but I can't actively make you be proactive about what you want to achieve. That has to be a choice from you. And insofar as I can, I will continue to provide podcasts. I will continue to talk about certain topics. I will continue to talk about your dilemmas, in the hope that we can all learn. Life is about being able to learn. And the opening quote for this podcast is being teachable. Being teachable means you have to open up yourself to learn and then be taught. And for me, every situation, every interview, every conversation, every negotiation, everything is a teachable moment for me to be better. And you should look at it in the same way, because success can only be achieved if you open your mind to be taught and open your mind to learn from your mistakes, from learning from other people's mistakes and just learning in general. So I'm going to leave it here, and I hope this podcast has landed, and I hope you have taken what you need from it, and I hope that you're able to share this, because I don't know who needs to hear this, but what I do know, as strong, black, powerful, single-mindedly focused black women, is we know how to share information, because we understand that the power and success in our community as black women comes from sharing. It doesn't come from being hoarding. You can't hoard information and want to be successful. That's not how it works. In order to break down the barriers and break down some of the obstacles that are placed in front of us, it has to be through being able to share, so that we can talk about these things, and so we can actively go out there in the world and start breaking things down and allowing ourselves to achieve and access certain things. So I'm going to leave it there. I have done the synopsis for the contracting, freelance and consulting masterclass. I will be recording that within the next week or so. It will go live in March, and I will also be recording the maternity masterclass, which will be out in March as well. Obviously, when talking about maternity masterclass, I will be talking about maternity from the perspective of a perm employee and a contractor as well. It's a heavily demanded masterclass, heavily. So I've had to do a lot of research as well, and I've had to speak to a couple of people just to make sure that the content is watertight. So that will be coming shortly. Anybody who has accessed the masterclasses in the previous platform and haven't received a migration email, can you please email hello@toytalks.com? We now understand how to transfer users. We now have a firm understanding of the new platform and stuff, and yeah, we've reached out to a lot of people, and a lot of people have migrated, but I am conscious that there's a few people who haven't migrated to the new system. So please email, let us know that you haven't been migrated. We have a manifesto of all the masterclasses we have sold to people. So if you're going to email me and say, oh, I bought this, we'll be able to check it. But if you do have the email that you signed up on the last website with, and if you do have by any chance confirmation email, anything that helps us to identify you, then the ladies will help you to migrate to the new platform, and we have a manifesto where we can check and sense check that you indeed did previously buy a masterclass. Also as well, if you have a workplace dilemma, I will be able to address it here on the podcast anonymously. All I ask is that you're very clear and straight to the point about what the issue is, what you're hoping to achieve, and then anonymously I will address your dilemmas here on the Toy Talks podcast. Also as well, if you have not gone onto the website, make sure you go and visit the website www.toytalks.com. If you are interested in purchasing a masterclass, you will see the masterclasses which are readily available on the toytalks.com website, and you will have access to the Toy Talks Academy. There's a couple of things I'm doing with the Academy at the moment where I'm going to start uploading quizzes. I'm going to add some new templates. I actually did a negotiation for redundancy last week, and the settlement that this person got was amazing, and I was able to give them consultation. The actual organisation was paying me to provide the advice to the particular client, but the client was actually the person that hired me. So that setup was quite interesting. I learned a lot from it, but also a settlement template of what you should receive if there is a settlement for redundancy. I thought that the settlement document was amazing. We negotiated it, and I'm able to take some stuff out of it, obviously to keep the anonymity of the person, but provide that as a template of what a settlement redundancy looks like or should look like if you are ever in that situation and receive a settlement offer. So I'll be uploading a couple of new templates to certain masterclasses, currently working on that, and I'm really enjoying kind of doing that as well. And also as well, I've recorded some new TikToks. There will be new TikToks will be out early April. We're going into the new financial year, taking a career break, so there's going to be a whole load of new content, because during that career break it's also an opportunity for me to do a couple of things with Toy Talks as well as just take a break for me and to explore other things and other chapters in my life as well. I'm going to leave it there, and I'm going to say to you, if you want to follow me on social media, I'm really active on Instagram. My handle is Toya_Washington. I'm also active on TikTok. I've got some previous TikToks uploaded and some new ones to come. Toy Washington, all one word. If you want to follow me on Snapchat, my handle is Toy Washington, which is all one word. And of course, the Toy Talks podcast has its own Instagram page, Toya_W. If you would like to send in a workplace dilemma, please do so, and make sure in the subject box you write dilemma so we're aware that it is a dilemma that needs to be looked at. And I will see you all again in the next installment of the Toy Talks podcast. I want to thank you so much for your love, so much for your support. Please share the podcast. Please share episodes that you've enjoyed. Please make sure you revisit episodes. And also as well, please make sure that you share with other people who may not know that the podcast exists and may be going through something at work and needs a bit of support through the podcast. I would really appreciate it. I want to thank you all for listening, thank you all for joining, and all your love and support. My name is Toy Washington, and you have been listening to the Toy Talks podcast.